frightened, and especially frightened of being shamed. Okonkwo's life is not in good balance. In 2948, we're given a different type of chi from what you had with Jiangzi. The chi is the God that's connected to who you should be and who you are. So you might compare this a little bit to Dharma as well. And we're given an insight into Nigerian belief systems here. And that is that fundamentally, you need to be in alignment with who you're supposed to be. Luck, back to Pushkin, luck is not really luck. Luck is about being orientated and related appropriately to the self that you should be in the world around you. The top of 2948, we're told that was not luck. At most, one could say his chi or personal God was good. But the Igbo people have a proverb that when a man says yes, his chi says yes also. Okonkwo said yes very strongly, so his chi agreed. And not only his chi, but his clan too, because it judged a man by the work of his hands. So again, the image is very clear. Nigerian society is fair. It's a meritocracy. You get what you earn. And at least to begin with, and in this moment, Okonkwo is earning the right respect by doing the right things that are appropriate to him, to his family, and to his community. And therefore, he has a strong and positive chi. So the way, and it's actually funny, they did this with my dad. He was swapped with a French family after the Second World War, with the idea being, maybe even study abroad as part of this, that if you share children or swap children, send young people back and forth between cultures, you're going to acquire a kind of specific and intense understanding and respect for that other culture, or even just that other community. So in order to seal the peace, there's an exchange of humans. Someone from one village is invited to live at another, vice versa, and under Okonkwo's protection. And so we get the subplot that develops here about Ikemefuna. He's the child, like my dad who went to live in France when he was 12, he's the child who is sent to live with Okonkwo to seal the peace between the two villages, to show respect and trust. But the little boy is extremely frightened. At first, Ikemefuna, we're told, on 2948, was very much afraid. Once or twice, he tried to run away, but he didn't know where to begin. He thought of his mother and his 3-year-old sister and wept bitterly. Nwoye's mother was very kind to him and treated him as one of her own children. So we get an insight into this frightened child, a Proustian moment perhaps, who is sent to help keep the peace to this very intimidating man's house, but fortunately the women in the house are kind to him. I'm not asking you to read every part of the text. I know it's long and I can't imagine all the things you're having to worry about. So I'm just pulling high points, but maybe other things appeal to you. The description of the Yam Festival that takes place as part of chapter 5 and starts on 2952 is fascinating for giving us a very precise and exact image of what society was like in Nigeria before the colonial experiment started. On 2958, a fascinating character is mentioned to us, Chielo. I hope you've noticed that. On the one hand, Achebe is often criticized for focusing so much on male characters and representing so many female characters as victims. The two moments, kind of like focusing on Ophelia, when actually everyone says you're supposed to be thinking about Hamlet. The two moments, and one is on 2958. Actually, if the men are the ones who make all the decisions in this community, they do it after they've consulted a female divine interpreter. And that's what Chielo is, the priestess who's the ultimate source of truth. And I'm going to ask you next time to spend a little moment thinking about what it must have been like, or how, at least Achebe wants us to think about being a Nigerian mother. And what kind of strength, what kind of resilience that might have entailed. So I just want to spend a few moments here with the very painful scene, but crucial scene that takes place on 2963, asking you to think about why does Okonkwo do what he does. Achebe has already invited us to think about whether it might have something to do with the fear of being ashamed of himself, of his father, of his family. So the peace has fallen apart, and the male elders of the village have decided that actually Ikemefuna has to be sacrificed. He cannot be kept alive because of the breakdown of relationship between the two communities. So unfortunately, Ikemefuna is sent on what is going to be his last and fatal journey. He's walking down the street, and it's an extraordinary moment. I'm actually going to read a lot of it this time and also give you a little piece of music. So it's this young man who's kind of found his way, but is still very, very stressed and intimidated. Here's what Achebe says on 2963. Although he'd felt uneasy at first, he was not afraid now. Okonkwo walked behind him. He could hardly imagine that Okonkwo was not his real father. He had never been fond of his real father, and at the end of 3 years, he'd become very distant indeed. Typical Hamlet stuff, so many fathers and sons, right? But his mother and his 3-year-old sister, of course, she would not be 3 now, but 6. Would he recognize her now? She must have grown quite big. How his mother would weep for joy and thank Okonkwo for having looked after him so well and for bringing him back. She would want to hear everything that had happened to him in all these years. Could he remember them all? He would tell her about Nwoye and his mother and about the locusts. Then quite suddenly a thought came upon him. His mother might be dead. He tried in vain to force the thought out of his mind. Then he tried to settle the matter, the way he used to settle such matters when he was a little boy, and he remembered the song. So I do hope you saw all the Proust and Joyce that's there, all the Hamlet soliloquies. We know what he's doing walking down the street, but instead of staying out there in the third person voice, we're actually inside his head, and we're seeing his head move from topic to topic to topic with ... The reason I wanted also to pause is I wanted to give you a chance. I played you a little Afro pop to start with. I wanted you to have a chance to hear a little bit of actual, more traditional style Nigerian music so that you'll hear the stepping movement. And that's why I want to do the little song here, this as a line. The point of the song will be that he's doing it a bit the way people do the, do they love me now? Do they hate me? Love me not, pulling petals off a flower. That's one of the ones that's often invoked. So he's got this idea that depending on which foot he steps, he's going to either declare his mother, he has no knowledge of this, alive or dead. And I just wanted you to have a second here of listening to something that's more in the traditional style. So this is Mamarkasis, which is a traditional, much more classic kind of piece of Nigerian percussion with singing. It out for you. Again, you can listen to the whole piece. I posted it on the Purple and Gold website for you. But I wanted you just to have a chance to hear that kind of very specific walking, syncopated rhythm, which is what's going on. Also to note that when we come to a song, and that is translated for you in the notes, like Ngugi, Achebe says he doesn't write poetry in English. And he also says he doesn't dream in English. He does poetry in Igbo, and he dreams in Igbo, because that's the language he thinks he lives in. So at the top of 2964, the text continues, he sang it in his mind and walked to its beat. If the song ended on his right foot, his mother was alive. If it ended on his left, she was dead. No, not dead, but ill. Almost verbatim the wolf piece, right? About the little boy that's being imagined has died. It ended on the right. She was alive and well. Like some of our authors, particularly one might say Kalidasa here, Ikemefuna wants this to be a comic story. He wants a happy ending. That's not what Achebe allows in his fictional world. One of the men behind him cleared his throat. Ikemefuna looked back, and the man growled at him to go on and not stand looking back. The way he said it sent cold fear down Ikemefuna's back. His hands trembled vaguely on the black pot he carried. Why had Okonkwo withdrawn to the rear? Ikemefuna felt his legs melting under him, and he was afraid to look back. And then, and here's one of those editorial journalistic moments. Not my mother, as in Medea, but my father, they have killed me. So he's being attacked by the other elders. And the point is, Okonkwo should not participate in the violence. He is the person who is tasked to protect the child. And therefore, even though the child is being executed, he needs to keep that loyalty. And then this is the crucial phrase that I'm inviting you to think about. Ongoing for this novel, dazed with fear, Okonkwo drew his machete and cut him down. He was afraid of being thought weak. So this is the terrible action that Okonkwo is taking in the middle of the novel, the one that's going to trigger the bad series of events that are the next section of the novel. And then unfortunately, we're going to have a reprise where things are continuing to go difficult, continuing to go poorly. Achebe makes a brave decision. He doesn't tell us a happy story, he tells us an unforgettable story about Nigeria. So be careful with yourselves, especially reading something as serious as the Achebe. I hope also to share with you moments, both in terms of the characters in the text, and especially in terms of what Achebe did with his life and his career, that are precisely what gives everyone some kind of strength to go through the difficulties, whatever they may be, that we're all experiencing at the moment. So please take care of yourselves. I look forward to seeing you virtually. Have a great rest of the week. Be safe. Sehr gut, sehr gesund. And I hope everything goes as smoothly and as calmly and as peacefully for all of you as possible. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.